Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And welcome to the State of the Saints podcast live. I don't know why. Okay, now it's rotated. Don't know why. Every time I try to rotate this, it always give me hard times. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I guess I gotta do it this way. Sorry, folks. What's going on? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And this is the State of the Saints podcast live. And on this edition, we're going to be talking New Orleans Saints. But the topic is really up to you. This is straight rapid fire. You know, any question that you have about the New Orleans Saints that you want to give to me, feel free, okay? Fire away. You can ask me anything that you want to ask me about the New Orleans Saints. I just want to say I appreciate you all. Thank you all for your time spending your lunch break or whatever you're doing right now, your Friday. Thank you so much. And I really do appreciate that, man. First and foremost, before I get started, man, I just want to let everyone know to check out the video that I put out on last night. I know it was late. I put that video out around 11. What happened was my fiance, she went out with her friends after work, and I ended up falling asleep on the couch watching Little Baby Bum with my son Paxton, man. And I know this isn't about the New Orleans Saints, man, but it's so crazy. Like, I never thought that I would honestly be sitting on the couch on a Thursday night watching Little Baby Bum and remembering like every single song that came on. Like, but anyway, man, that's what I love so much about fatherhood, man. So I love it, you know. But we end up falling asleep. I end up waking up, and then I put out a video. Darian 7T1. Thank you very much for the $5 donation, man. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, my brother. Thank you so much for your support. But once again, man, that's why I ended up putting a video out so late. So y'all check out the video I put out. I talked about DeAndre Hopkins versus Michael Thomas and who is the better wide receiver. I just gave my opinion about it. Some people didn't agree with what I'm saying. It's cool. I have no problem with that. I love it. Love when we have good dialogue and people like tell me what they feel about it. Some people like, TJ, man, you crazy, man. What you talking about? But I love it, man. I love people giving their opinions about the black and gold. So this is what this show is all about. I also talked about Jadeveon Clowney. There were some sources that were out that said that he may end up signing with the New Orleans Saints. Both parties on both sides, Jadeveon Clowney representation and the New Orleans Saints representation, they were on the same page. So never know, man. I gave my thoughts about that. So check that video out. Go ahead and hit the like button if you have not already. I would really appreciate that also. So let's go ahead and get started, man. First off, Kieran, my guy. What's going on, Kieran Osborne? Always coming through with the heat. Always got some good questions. What's going on, my brother? Darian, thank you very much again for the $5 donation. My guy Jerry is in here. I see Christy. She's in here. Let me see. Jerry, I know you checked it out last night. I know you checked out the video. I seen your comments. You know, sometimes, you know, I may not respond to comments. And one of the reasons why, man, is because some people just, you know, they just hate us. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, like, I don't look at the comments because I feel like, you know, one, it'd be like from trolls, or it just be the fact that people just, you know, just want to, you know, try to throw salt on your, you know, throw salt on you or whatever. So I try to avoid that. But if I see the usual suspects commenting, then I try to respond. Or if I don't respond, then I'll probably bring up their comments on another show. So, but Jerry, I definitely did see that. Kieran, starting us off, he said, you think Clowney will make an immediate impact on the defense if the Saints decide to sign him? Kieran, thank you very much for starting us off. To be honest with you, yes, I feel like he would have an immediate impact on the Saints defense because of the talent that Jadeveon Clowney is. The talent that he possesses is off the charts, man. The guy reminds me of a much more athletic Javon Curse. Now, some of you probably don't know what Javon Curse is. Most of you probably do. He started his career off, I think, with the Tennessee Titans, and then he left and went to the Philadelphia Eagles. But he was this guy coming out of Florida, man, freakish talent, man, was all over the field. But Jadeveon Clowney takes that to a different level. Jadeveon Clowney has all the tools to be a really great defensive end. And I think that along with Cameron Jordan, those guys can wreak havoc. And if you throw in Marcus Davenport, who I'm feeling like really has something to prove, because there are whispers. There are whispers in the Who Dat Nation and bringing him into what I like to call bust territory. Rather it's deserving or not, people are calling him that. So he has something to prove. And also Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon Rankins is starting to get the tag of, yeah, but. Yeah, he's talented, but he's always hurt. Yeah, he can be one of the best interior tackles in the league, but he's always hurt. So these guys are coming into this season with something to prove. Jadeveon Clowney, I have to be honest with you. I gave my personal opinion on the last video, so I encourage you all to check it out. I went into depth, but I do think that he has something to bring to the New Orleans Saints team. But the only concern that I have about him is the fact that he's always hurt. It's always a knee. It's always an ankle. And, you know, when you start to get up there in age and the narrative is starting to be, you know, put out there about you, it concerns me. I'm not concerned about the talent that I see, because if he plays a 16-game season, look out. But the question is, can he play a 16-game season? And how many times have we actually seen him play a 16-game season? Has not been those many times. As a matter of fact, I'm wondering, have I ever seen him play a 16-game season? Because he was always hurt, man. I think he went into maybe like his third season before the Houston Texans actually got a return on the first pick overall investment that they put out on him. So I like the fact that he can come to the Saints. I like the fact that he can bring something to the table, but I am concerned about his history of being hurt. And when you combine that with Davenport, who has a history of being hurt, and Sheldon Rankins with a history of being hurt, it concerns me, okay? Because you'll mess around and go from two people that's never in the lineup to three people who is never in the lineup. And one of those guys, you're paying a lot of money to sit on a bench in Saints gear that doesn't consist of a helmet and shoulder pads. That's just my opinion. Thank you, Kieran. Chemo Slice says, who that? TJ, the host. What's going on, brother? I appreciate that. Saints are beefing up. I agree with that. Ramsey, yo, who that? Ramsey says, if we get Clowney, man, best front line. Yeah, he will add something to the front. No doubt about that. Remember the old saying, he hell when he well, but he's sick all the time. Oh, man, that is a very old saying, Jerry. Joe says, man, they need to get him. The other team offensive line would be able to double nobody on the D-line. I agree with that. If Clowney signs a one-year deal, the Saints are not going to pay him crazy money or a long-term deal because of his injury history, and teams don't want to commit long-term. His production has been so-so. That comes from DLP 2600. I agree. That's one of the issues that Jadeveon Clowney had, and that's one of the main reasons why he's still out here in free agency, because teams don't want to commit that type of money to Jadeveon Clowney. Now, Jadeveon, once again, if you're just tuning in, I said he is an incredible talent. He has all the physical tools to be an elite defensive end, okay? But the problem is he's never healthy, okay? He is never healthy. And teams are not going to pay you a substantial amount of money if you're not on the field. Why the hell would they do that, okay? Honestly, man, would you pay a guy, even though this guy is like extremely smart, he came from MIT, you know what I'm saying, he's technologically savvy, and you have a technical business, would you pay this guy X amount of money if he tells you, well, You pay me this amount of money, but I only can come in one day out of the week. Hell no. You know what I'm saying? If you have a technical company, you want to have a guy that's on staff every single day. Or if you're paying them a lot of money, you want to make sure that you are investing in the right guy. So regardless to how talented he is, no matter how many physical tools he has, I mean, it's cool if we're playing Madden. But this is real life we're talking about, folks. And you want to have bang for your buck. You want to have a return on your investment. And if Jadeveon Clowney, as talented as he is not on the field, if he is not producing, if he's not doing the things that the Saints are paying him to do, then why in the world would you want to commit to him long term? He is going to get what I like to call the Ndamukong Suh treatment. Now, this is for two different reasons. Ndamukong Suh has become almost, to me, an NFL mercenary. Okay, it's as if he's being sold to the highest bidder. Teams don't really want to commit to Ndamukong Suh because even though Ndamukong is really talented, he takes plays off and he does what Randy Moss said he did. He plays when he wants to. And teams are not going to commit to guys that play when they want to. They want hybrids. They want every down guys. They want high motor dudes, okay? So he is going to fall into that category as an NFL mercenary because teams are going to be like, yeah, I'll rent him out for a year, but I don't want to commit to this guy long term, okay? He's going to possibly fall into that particular trap. And if you combine that with Jadeveon Clowney actually wanting to pick and choose where he wants to go, like he's in the NBA, like he Anthony Davis or somebody, you're going to have yourself some problems, some real true problems, and you're going to be one of those guys that's going to be playing for almost every single team in the National Football League because that one team is not going to want to commit to you. People want to see Jadeveon Clowney play a 16-game season with consistent numbers and maybe some double-digit sacks. I mean, you come into the league in 2014, you're going into your seventh season. You're going into your seventh season and have never produced double-digit sacks. That's very concerning to a person that wants to pay you, but is very, very skeptical about doing so. So, very talented guy, though, no doubt. Let's see. Griffin is stronger than Clowney, but he's also older than Jadeveon Clowney. You gotta take that into consideration. Who Dat Nation? Who Dat Nation? That's a very good point. I know a lot of people love Everson Griffin. I'm one of those guys. I love Everson Griffin. He's a high motor guy, and you never had to question his ability, or you never had to question his want to ever. Okay, the only issue that Everson Griffin had was personal issues that he was dealing with, which I completely understand. As a guy that went through anxiety and depression, I know how that can take a toll on your life. So he's a champion to me just for the simple fact that he decided to step away from football to fix his life. That's very important to me. If I had a choice out of who I would pick, without a shadow of a doubt, I would go with Everson Griffin. But you also have to take into account that Everson Griffin is about 31 or 32 years old, and Jadeveon Clowney is about 27. So teams are going to look at that age. Okay, they're looking at Everson Griffin has more games behind him than he has in front of him. Jadeveon Clowney, even though he came into the league in 2014, he's still a young guy, and you still can get some production out of him. So teams are going to be looking more at Jadeveon Clowney than Everson Griffin. But Everson Griffin can play on my team any day of the week, okay? Because he is incredible. He's incredible talent, and I hate when he plays the Saints because he just roughs the team every single time he plays them, okay? So I would love to see him in a New Orleans Saints uniform. Let's see. Tramal says, hey, TJ, I disagree with what you're saying. Cam Newton is better than Winston. Cam is trash now. Okay. Let's see. I guess you're talking about Cam Newton is better than Winston. Yeah, okay. That's another thing. It's not so much about talent all the time. A lot of people look at youth also, like they feel like that's important. Now, if we want to compare quarterbacks, we know that Cam Newton is better than Jameis Winston. But Cam Newton is also 30 years old and Jameis Winston is 27. So even though you're looking at Cam Newton being more talented than Jameis Winston, you're looking at, oh, he's 30, oh, he has some shoulder injuries on his throwing arm, oh, he's been in and out of the lineup, oh, he missed the entire season. I think I'm going to go with Jameis, even though Jameis turns the ball over. He's still young and we can fix him. So I think that's how teams look at it. But that's the way I see it. I think youth sometimes prevail over experience and sometimes even production, because teams look at it like, okay, if I fix this guy and he's young, I can get 5 or 6 years of production out of him versus a guy that I could probably rent for a year or two that's probably on his way out of the league. Or how long are we going to get this type of production, even if he comes in and be a world beater his first season? Okay, you start getting older. You start to get these nagging injuries. You slow down. So, so I think teams take that into consideration. Man, I love to see Davenport stay healthy. If you count the sacks that he got taken away from past interception penalties, he had 8 last year in 13 games. Bennett, that's true. That is absolutely true. And you also got to look at the fact that the guy had 4 sacks in 2 weeks. People are not looking at that. He had 4 sacks in 2 weeks. So he was starting to come home, man. I think a lot of people forget about that. I understand this whole saying out of sight, out of mind. Okay, when you're not in a person's face and the person doesn't see you, all of a sudden they forget about all the things that you've done. When Sheldon Rankins wasn't hurt before he tore his Achilles, he had 6 sacks as an interior lineman. He was up there with the Aaron Donalds. I think, man, I would say, for the exception of Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox, Sheldon Rankins was probably the 3rd best interior lineman in the league. Before he got hurt. But now the narrative is coming out, oh, he never healthy. Man, they need to go ahead and trade him, get rid of him. Look at the production, okay? I understand that we live in this microwave world where, it's one story after another. It's one narrative after another. But when we sit back and assess the situation and look at it and break it down, we see that these guys are really productive and they're really good at what they're doing. And if you really go under a microscope, you'll actually see the things that they are supposed to be doing outside of getting sacks. They do very, very well. You don't see people running up the middle when Sheldon Rankins is playing. And you don't see people running to the left when Davenport is in the game, because they shut it down real quick. You have to understand, for the last couple of seasons, the Saints did not allow a 100-yard rusher. And you also got to look at the fact that Delvin Cook ran crazy against the New Orleans Saints, but he did most of his damage on the left side, the side where Marcus Davenport would have been if he was playing in that playoff game. So everything is not as, complicated as we make it. You know what I'm saying? And some things aren't as simple as we try to make them. Marcus Davenport means a lot to the New Orleans Saints in the run game. Okay, I feel like the sacks are going to come. Sometimes you got to look at a guy as a raw talent. I look at somebody like Ziggy Ansah, for example, right? Ziggy Ansah came out of BYU. Very raw talent. I don't even think he played football most of his life. Okay, I think he started to play maybe like last year or high school or something. He was very raw at BYU, and the Detroit Lions took a gamble on him. The only thing that Ziggy Ansah can do well was set the edge. Kind of similar to Davenport. Davenport is a guy who came in very small frame, in my opinion, for a defensive end. He has to get time to get that big guy body, that adult body, okay? I mean, where he came from, University of Texas at San Antonio? I mean, how well do you think their strength and conditioning department is? The fact that he actually was a first-round pick out of University of Texas San Antonio is a testament to itself. I mean, he basically became a first-round pick of pure athleticism. So you have to teach this guy. You got to strengthen him and beef him up. You know what I'm saying? You got to get some beef stew in this boy. You know what I'm saying? You got to get him in a weight room to get him where he needs to be And I'm pretty sure you're going to have to work on his technique as well. So if he's setting the edge really well, that's a plus because he's a young guy and you can always teach him better techniques. And I definitely seen from year one to year two, I seen some progress before he got hurt. Okay, if we can get these injuries under control, the Saints can have their next guy to come in after Cam Jordan decides to hang it up and go work for the NFL Network, which he was born to do. Okay, so they'll have somebody to come in and replace him, and they won't have a drop in production. At least they'll have one person in there that's getting those double-digit sacks, and his name is Marcus Davenport, man. I'm telling y'all, go back and watch the tape. It's not always about getting sacks. I understand that. We look at the defensive end position, we think about sacks, but those TFLs are very important too. Those tackles for loss, those no gains, just stonewalling a guy. That's important too, folks. Rankins is still productive. I wouldn't get rid of him. Jamal, I would not either. I would not either, my brother. Let's see. What are some of the weaknesses the Saints could face in the upcoming season? Some of the weaknesses the New Orleans Saints can face this upcoming season. If I think about it, the weakness would have to be the drop-off at wide receiver. Look, I understand about a number one. I understand the Saints answered the question of a number two with Emmanuel Sanders. But still, after these two guys, there's a drop-off. There's a huge drop-off. And no disrespect to Emmanuel Sanders. I feel like if he comes in, I feel like he's going to produce at a high level. But he does get hurt quite a bit. He's getting nicked up, man. He has had a fair share of knee injuries over his career. Over the last 3 years, I mean, he's been in and out of the lineup. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like the Denver Broncos got rid of him, okay? Not to mention that he was getting older. So he does do some great things. He's a smart guy. He's another guy that has a future in broadcasting, in my opinion. But there's a huge drop-off, man. I want to see somebody step up. I want to see Emmanuel Butler step up. I want to see Traquan Smith step up. I want to see some of these other guys in the Saints rotation step up. I don't understand why. I don't understand if it's just Sean Payton's lack of commitment to these guys. Are they just not that good? And that's the frustrating about all of this, Who Dat Nation. It's the fact that I don't know. I don't know how good Traquan Smith actually is. Okay, I only can see that Drew Brees does not throw him the ball quite often. And I do know, watching Drew Brees since he has come to New Orleans in 2006, he will throw to the cotton candy man if he open. Drew Brees don't care what number you are. Drew Brees don't care if you lead the league in receptions. He don't care if you lead the league in touchdowns. He don't care. If you're open, he throws you the football. So my question is Traquan Smith not getting open? Is the communication bad? I would like to see Traquan Smith actually step it up. I mean, he had a few, man, he flashed every now and then. It's like a lunar eclipse. Comes out about every 4 years, okay? Halley's Comet. You know what I'm saying? You rarely see it, but when it comes up and it shows up, it's beautiful. Just think about it. When Traquan Smith, two of his best games, well, I say three. Three of his best games the first one was against the Philadelphia Eagles when Philadelphia double covered Michael Thomas. He had a really big game. He had over 150 yards receiving. The next game was against the 49ers when he had that go-ahead touchdown, and it should have been the game winner. And, of course, when they decided to play him in Week 17 against the Carolina Panthers and Michael Thomas' hand was broke, he stepped it up a little bit more. So, in my honest opinion, I really don't know how good he is. But I'm interested to know if he can step up. And if he can't, then he needs to step aside. Because there are some guys out there I feel like can contribute that's not named Michael Thomas and not named Emmanuel Sanders. I feel like it's a damn shame, that the New Orleans Saints have an offensive-minded coach who throws the football all over the place and yet there's only one guy on the team, and you had to go out here to get someone else from another team in order for them to produce. Traquan Smith has been in the best position that you can think of, man. You go to the New Orleans Saints team that are a pass-dependent team and an elite future Hall of Fame quarterback, and you still can't produce. That's ridiculous, man. How many, and don't give me that stuff about, oh man, Traquan Smith, he came from Central Florida, you know, he young. Man, there's so many guys. Nobody knew who Marcus Colston was. People in Louisiana, we knew who Devery Henderson was because of the Bluegrass Miracle, and of course, he was a speed demon at LSU. But nobody really knew who Devery Henderson was outside Louisiana. Nobody knew who Lance Moore was. We didn't know who these guys was. We didn't know who Pierre Thomas was. But they made it work. So my question is, what is really wrong with Traquan Smith, and why can't he step it up? Emmanuel Butler, another guy, all the physical tools. If you look at this guy in his rookie season, the dude looked like Megatron already. And you still have a young 20-year-old body, dude. So you're only going to get more bigger and more physical. Why is it that he never saw the field? Why is it that he has to take a red shirt year? And I understand he went to Northern Arizona, not a big name college. And just like Marcus Davenport, you know, I mean, you probably wasn't exposed to some of the greatest resources, you know, like strength and conditioning and nutrition and stuff like that, like you will get out of Alabama, or you'll get out of LSU, or you'll get out of Florida. But damn, you know what I'm saying? You 6'4", 225 pounds, and you still can't see the field? Come on, man. I mean, honestly, you're 6'4", 225 pounds, and you still have problems with blocking? My thing is, look, there's certain things that you can't teach, okay? You can't teach talent, and you can't teach this. You can't teach heart, folks. So if you're not on the field, something wrong with your talent or something wrong with your heart. Because if I was 6'4", 225 pounds, there's no way in the world you would stop me from being on the field. I would be wreaking havoc, okay? But, I mean, I don't know. I would like to see these guys step up. Another position is the linebacker position. A lot of unanswered questions. I think I seen somebody say the linebacker position. But, yeah, man, the linebacker position, man. Who's going to step up outside of Demario Davis? Who is going to be that guy that be all over the field? Let's look at Alex Anzalone. Great talent, smart player, always making plays. You can see Alex Anzalone catching interceptions. You can see him forcing fumbles. Then you'll see him miss 5-6 games. No. That ain't going to cut it, okay? That ain't cutting it nowhere, okay? I don't care how talented you are. If you're not on the field, if you're not in the lineup, then you're not going to be on one of those guys that people talk about consistently. And it's sad because Anzalone was good at Florida. Anzalone is good for the Saints, but he can never stay healthy, okay? And honestly, no matter how good you are, no matter how talented you are, if you can't stay healthy, you are not going to be beneficial to the New Orleans Saints. And then we move on to somebody like Caden Ellis, the young man out of Idaho. He was a good, solid tackler from what I've seen in preseason. Call it for what it is. That's the only thing that I can go off of because he didn't play in the regular season because he ended up being on IR. Okay, he's a young guy. He's a hybrid guy. I feel like he's smart. So I feel like they're probably going to put him on special teams and maybe he'll be in that rotation. Zach Bond is a guy that I look at, and Joe Bacci is another guy that I look at. These young guys, I feel like the Saints can actually mold. Demario Davis can take these guys under his wing and teach them because Zach Bond is a really intelligent linebacker, okay? According to Pro Football Focus, and I know I've said this quite a few times, but he was better than Patrick Queen, and he was better than Kenneth Murray. But a lot of people weren't saying anything about him because they were concerned about him being healthy. Didn't really bother him at Wisconsin, but he was more of a hands-on-the-ground type linebacker. He can play in coverage, and he's a good, solid tackler. But they were concerned about him being injured in the future. Okay, so that's what the reason why people ain't really wasn't saying anything about Zach Bond. But Zach Bond has an opportunity to be a really good linebacker. But the reason I'm not really talking about him as much is because of this pandemic. These guys are not going to come in wrecking shop. I mean, come on, man. Let's be real about this. If you're expecting a rookie for the New Orleans Saints to take the league by storm this season, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Stop wasting your time thinking like that and having that mind frame. We're in a pandemic. These are conditions that we never thought that we would see in our lifetime. You're basically having these guys, according to Sean Payton, having these guys with virtual meetings? Virtual meetings? Are you serious? You think virtual meetings is going to teach technique? Do you think virtual meetings is going to teach you where you need to be on the field? Do you think virtual meetings can teach you how to feel the field? No. It's going to take some time, maybe even weeks, before we actually see some linebackers or see some of these young players actually splash on our screen. Maybe not so much Cesar Ruiz, because he is a center, and that's kind of stuff you can't teach, okay? You can't teach technique. Looking at that guy, I think that he'll be okay. But you look at some of these other linebackers, like, come on, man. Sam, Will, the Mike, you got to learn all these different code words. You got to learn all these different positions. You got to learn if you want to, you got to guard the running back or the tight end or the slot. I mean, come on, man. That is tough. So these guys are going to go through some learning curves, man. So that's the reason why, look, we need to reserve our judgment on some of these rookies until at least, a few weeks into the season. Don't be coming out calling them bust. Don't come out here calling them a waste of space. Don't come out here talking about the Saints made a mistake, because we're dealing with a pandemic and these guys are not around the veterans. Okay, they're not around these veterans and they don't have an opportunity to develop. That's something that a lot of people need to look at. So take your time when analyzing these rookies. Emmanuel Butler got hurt in preseason and was off and on field. DLP, I ain't see him out there. I ain't seen him. I only seen him one time, and that was against the Miami Dolphins. Defensive end also, we need that one person to help Cam Jordan, and then we can get that our defense should be solid. Jermaine, I have to disagree with what you're saying, man. The Saints actually had a guy that's on the other side of Cameron Jordan. The guy just has to stay healthy. Okay, you see. I mean, no disrespect to Jermaine, and I understand. I know for coming from a bad place. Okay, I get it. I know it don't come from a bad place, Jermaine. But at the same time, once I was saying earlier, out of sight, out of mind. Okay, the fact that Davenport is productive, we don't really remember that because he's not on the field. He's not on the field. Okay, so that's the reason why we feel like we got to go out here and get, Tom, Dick, or Harry to come in and fill in. Now, I will say this, Jermaine. Depth would be very, very important to the New Orleans Saints as far as their rotation. I actually like the rotation of the New Orleans Saints. I like Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson led the team in sacks for 3 weeks, okay, at the beginning of the season. Then he had his neck injury and he was out. See? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's productive, but he's not in the lineup. I mean, Mario Edwards, coming in part of the rotation. I think he had 2.5 sacks. That's productivity. Shy Tuttle, who came in after Sheldon Rankins got hurt. I mean, undrafted out of Tennessee. Very productive, okay? He just didn't do that little stiff arm thing that everybody keep on putting as a gift and showing it to that team's fans. Okay, he did a lot more than that on the interior. David Anyamata, another guy that steps up. They have guys that can rotate in the lineup and be really good. You can even throw Carl Granderson in there. Thank you, DLP. Carl Granderson. I feel like, yeah, man, the guy went through some hardships. He was in jail. Okay? He was in jail before he came to the New Orleans Saints. So, guy probably was out of shape, wasn't in football shape, probably got back into football shape. Like, I'm looking at it, it's very, very simple. It's very, very simple. They have depth. They have guys that they can rotate. problem is these guys staying healthy. So if they can deal with that, they'll be all right. We're gonna answer a couple more and then we'll get up out of here. Dwayne says Everson Griffin is still available, but because of the mental health, teams are backing off. We should bring him in for an evaluation. I think it's that, Dwayne, and I also think it has a lot to do with the fact that people can't really see these guys because of the whole COVID-19 thing. You can't bring guys into the facility because nobody's at the facility. You can't really have a one-on-one, a dinner, or anything like that with these guys because the NFL is not allowing coaches or players to do that, okay? You had Tom Brady out at the park with Chris Godwin and crew throwing a football around, and, they had to disperse. So it's not like teams can bring a guy in and say, ooh, I think I like him. I think he can contribute to the team. Let's go ahead and bring him in. When you're dealing with a guy with mental illness, that is not something that you look at and just take lightly. When guys dealing with mental illness, he might be okay today, but next week might be a completely different story. And that is a decision that you really need to sit down and analyze and make the right one. Because even though Everson Griffin can be a huge contributor to the New Orleans Saints, he still has life outside of football, folks. And I think sometimes we forget that because we look at these guys as superhuman. We look at these guys as being invincible. We look at these guys as being all world, and some of us even live vicariously through these guys. But one thing about them that we all share is the fact that we're human. And these guys have problems just like you and me. Now, they might be in a different tax bracket than you and me, but they still have problems. And you want to make sure that Everson Griffin is okay outside of football. It shouldn't just be, oh, he can bring me 5 or 6 sacks, or he can bring me a little bit more when it comes to the interior. The guy is a human being at the end of the day, and you want to make sure that you're making the right decision for Everson Griffin and the New Orleans Saints organization, and that's not something that you do on a virtual phone call. Jameis Winston is one thing. Jameis Winston, even though, he had some issues in college and they kind of trickled into the pros, you still kind of know what you actually have with him. A guy who can throw about 400 yards a game, but he also can throw 4 interceptions a game. And I think that the Saints understand that. But when you're dealing with a guy that has mental issues, when you're dealing with a guy that deals with anxiety and depression, and like I said, man, for those that just came on, I dealt with anxiety and depression. Still, at times, I do. I wonder to myself, like, am I good enough? You know what I'm saying? Can I make it through the day? Sometimes I have to psych myself out. When you're dealing with that kind of stuff, that is something that you don't want to take lightly, folks. So even though we want Everson Griffin down in New Orleans, we have to look at this guy and show a level of humanity for him, okay? And a level of empathy and sympathy for him, and make sure that he's in the right place, okay? And make sure that the Saints have all the resources that he needs in order for him to be productive on and off the field. I'm going to take one more. Let's see. Agreed. He should definitely be in a good mental health for us to sign him. Yep. Like it can't always be about production all the time. Last one. Joe Bacci will be playing a lot, and Bond. These guys played at high levels. Both were all Big Ten. Both produced big time. I agree, man. I think they both will be contributors. I feel like Zach Bond gonna definitely be on the field. The Saints love him. Joe Bacci, he might end up being on the field, being part of the rotation. And also, man, you gotta look at Roach from Texas as well, man. I like him as well. He was really productive at the University of Texas. Dwayne, thank you very much for the 199. But I look at the New Orleans Saints as a team. If they can put it all together, they can make a run. And call me arrogant, call me full of myself, call me a typical Saints fan, as some of the people in the NFL and NFC South like to say. But I'm just confident that the New Orleans Saints are just the better team. The Saints are better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Saints are better than that team. They are better than the Carolina Panthers, in my honest opinion. And I understand where where we stand. I understand the talent level, and I understand how Tampa has beefed it up, and they got Tom Brady, a 6-time Super Bowl winning quarterback. And I understand Chris Godwin is not a slouch, and Mike Evans is not a slouch, and they got some young players in the secondary now. And you got Devin White, and you got all these different guys, man. Levante David. I get it. I completely understand that. I know that these guys can actually play at a high level. But at the same time, I look at the New Orleans Saints from a chemistry standpoint. I look at the Saints from a battle-tested standpoint. And I look at them from players that actually can look at one another and know what the other person is thinking. Okay? I feel like that is a recipe for success. No, I'm not really disrespecting teams out of the NFC South. And I understand what people who come on here, I know Archangel is, what I'm saying? I completely 100% get that. You want to show allegiance and respect to your team. And I respect, them on a certain level. But I feel like the New Orleans Saints just have that little bit of extra that you need to get over the hump. And I'm not saying it's going to be pretty. It might not even be as pretty as it was last year. Okay, it may not be a 13-3 season. I feel like the NFC South is going to beat up on itself. But at the end of the day, I feel like the Saints have enough horses in the barn to win the NFC South. Okay, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of up and down. It's going to be a lot of heart medicine and a lot of blood pressure medication being taken in these games. But it is going to be something special, man. And I feel like it is going to prepare the Saints for the playoffs. Okay, I know a lot of people not really interested in the regular season. They're worried about can the Saints make the playoffs, and when they get there, can they make a run? And I feel like the Saints can, okay? And I feel like they will this season. So I may sound like a typical Saints fan. People may say, oh, man, you just cocky, you arrogant. They're just a Saints fan as a whole, but that's the way I feel. I love the black and gold. I love the New Orleans Saints, and I got confidence in the team. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the live here on the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much. Really, truly, thank you so much for submitting your questions. And for those that I didn't answer, feel free to comment and also email me at stateofthesaints@gmail.com. Or you can go to facebook.com, search The State of the Saints podcast, and inbox me there, okay? And you can ask your questions, okay? Sometimes I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions, at once, but I try to do my best. Like, I really try to do my best to try to answer every person. And maybe it won't be in the inbox. Sometimes, I take your questions and actually make shows about them. You all are very important to the success of the State of the Saints podcast. Some of y'all don't even know. Man, shouts out to Kerryon, Jerry Poor, Bobby Cross, Dwayne, like Chrissy. All of you, what I'm saying? Like all of you, DLP, all you guys, what I'm saying? With the great questions, the great content, always looking out, always sending like articles and stuff like that, that I may not see. I'll probably be doing stuff and counting on you guys to actually send me that stuff and ask me what I think. Not only is that humbling, but it's helpful as well, man. So thank y'all. Once again, stateofthesaints@gmail.com, facebook.com, search The State of the Saints podcast and inbox there. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel. If this is your first time, thank you very much. This is the State of the Saints podcast. My name is TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. So hopefully this won't be your last time. And thank you very much. And hopefully we see you again. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out the audio form of the State of the Saints podcast that's available on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. And if you have Alexa, all you have to do is say, hey, Alexa, I want to listen to the State of the Saints podcast, or play the State of the Saints podcast, and it'll play the most recent episode for you. I understand people are on the go. Sometimes you're probably at work, don't want the boss man to see you looking at a video when you're supposed to be doing your job. So you can listen to it in audio form, okay? So thank you all very much. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll get back into it probably tomorrow. I'll probably come through with a video for you all. And much love to you, man. Be safe out there. And make sure you tell somebody that you love them, man. I mean, show love today and express love as well. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?